And so the book really was a family process.
It sure was.
I remember reading an article that your children helped you do some of the research.
They did. They absolutely did. I mean, when it was actually, it was under the gun. I lost my father actually during the final revisions, and so it slowed me down tremendously. And then I was like really under the gun and having to turn in the final. And so my husband and children will come to the library with me, and it's like, I need to know how someone dressed. And so my daughter would look through, the microfilm of fashion magazines or the Philadelphia Tribune, I think, oldest continuously black newspaper in the United States, I think. But we went through old Philadelphia Tribunes. My son did the sports and what teams, the Negro League and where they played and all that. I mean, just so that I could have phrases that actually particularized and made it even more Philadelphia and more authentic. How much did the refrigerator cost? How much was a pound of butter? I mean, just those kinds of detail that would have taken me. I mean, it's a lot easier now with Google and the internet to research and to go online and to actually go into libraries and online and find what I need. Back then you needed to physically go to the library, and we took many trips to the library, and they were just tremendous. And I thought, Mom, they wore these kind of drop waist dresses, and they would describe things to me, and that I could then use. My husband would tell me, there was a story about a Bible bandit who would go and rob people, and he always held a Bible in his hand. That's fascinating. So that's something that, the people could be talking about when they're just sitting around chatting. Yeah, what about that Bible bandit? So that those kinds of things that it would have taken, just one person a lot of time to amass, having these three other eyes going through things, going through pictures and describing things for me, and things that struck them for whatever reason that I could then use in the novels. It really, towards the end of the writing process, it really did become this family affair. And then my daughter was really one of the early readers, and I was concerned about her reading it. She was 10 or 11 at that point. And as the novel was unfolding, and she had all these pages, she'd go into her room at night and take all of these pages, and I was like, oh, I should she be reading this? And it was like, oh, but I wonder what she thinks. I was like so needy for feedback, and I would go into her room under presumption of looking for something in her closet. And it's like, so what do you think? And she said, Mommy, this is good. This is really good. And it was like this validation from this child, that it was in fact really good. And I wasn't really ready for anybody to read it. And she had come to they used to spend 2 weeks with Gwen in D.C. And she wanted to read it on the train. And I had bound, by then it was I'd gone to Kinko's or somewhere and had it actually bound. And even though it was still very much a draft. And I wasn't really ready for Gwen to read it yet, or anybody. And Gwen called and said, she has so much stuff. I don't think this manuscript is going to fit. I'll just mail it. I was like, oh, God, no. And she did. She mailed it. And, but I think, she had read it a little bit and said, this is pretty good. And so, coming from her, who's also a writer and who knows writing. So I started getting this validation also from my family that this is pretty good. So it became, a family affair. At the end, finally, when I was just so nervous about letting it go, and it was sitting on my desk, and my husband had been sitting there for a week, and I just didn't want to send the whole thing, because it's once I send it and they say no, then what? This is when I was, right before I was going to send the whole thing to the agent, and my husband read it, and he was reading it, and he said, why isn't this somewhere? Why isn't this somewhere where, and, he someone who doesn't read fiction, was saying that. So I my entire family was tremendously supportive when it came to that part, and finally letting it